Oh shit. Yeah, I fucked it up. I was gonna play a little video to start the stream, but something happened. It's no worries. Maybe I'll play it in the midstream. Here we are. We're live. I got Western Decline. I got Collective Dismal. We're here. We're gonna discuss the film Misery from 1990. How's it going, guys?
What's going on, Thomas? Going great here. And yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to hang out with you guys. I always like talking to you Canadian fellas because I live in the upper Midwest here, and I don't know. It's almost like Canada, but then like, oh yeah, it's not. Well, then it is. It's not, and then it is because it's like it's like the white part of like quote America, but then like it's not really white actually. Sorry.
From the looks of things, we're not going to be Canadian for too much longer.
You're further north than me, I think, geographically, and you have a thicker Canadian accent than me for sure. So I think you're kind of honorary at this point.
Yeah, and I don't care about America. Everyone's like, "Oh, fuck the Canadians," and Canadians suck, and they're cucks.
They do. They're right.
Oh,
like America's not much better, but Canada is awful. I'd love to become American just to spite my fellow Canadians at this point.
Well, like, all you guys are going to become American soon. Don't worry.
The G-ification. Once the G-ification is complete, then you can annex us, and I don't really care after that.
Well, you know it's going to happen. Elon Musk needs his Jeets, and if he can't bring them in from like India, he'll bring them in from Canada.
Oh God! All right, guys. Here we go. Have you, both of you guys, has either of you seen the film? And what's maybe your first reaction? Opener, intro, hot take. Go ahead. Why don't you start first, Dismal?
So I seen the film once. It definitely needed to be seen one more time. I watched it a week ago, and the most shocking thing to me was that I'd never heard of this. I guess it was pretty well acclaimed too. There was a lot of awards given for this film, and I just never fucking heard of it, which was the most remarkable thing. But I have seen it, so yeah.
I hadn't seen it prior to this.
Really?
My one and only time through it.
Yeah, same. Had you heard of it though?
No, I hadn't.
Very odd.
I think maybe because it depicts women in a negative light. Like, you never hear about those sort of films ever.
You think based on a Stephen King novel and a lot of different factors, I would have thought for sure. At least, my brother, who's a very big movie buff, I rely on him a lot for recommendations as well as on Thomas. And so nobody pointed it out to me, so I'm glad you did. And I'm definitely going to watch it again.
What's kind of your first reaction, Dismal? Like, did you enjoy it?
Instant classic. No, it was an instant classic. Like, for me anyway, no doubt. It was a really good film. Very minimalistic, which I like. I like very stripped down, minimalized films where there's they focus on the drama rather than like elaborate cinematography and things like this. Very good film.
You know what movie it reminded me of in that way? The original Saw movie, where the guy just wakes up like chained to the bathtub or whatever.
Yeah. This is like the real version of it.
Did you guys watch the Saw films? Like how that kind of plays out after sequel after sequel? And I mean, I really enjoyed it, the first one, but then each one afterwards was just worse and worse.
It turned into just like gore porn at a certain point, and I found it distasteful after that. The first couple were entertaining because it's like they were more like cerebral, like it was more about like the mental struggle of like overcoming the predicament with less focus on like just people mutilating themselves to escape whatever trap they were in.
Yeah, I seen at least the first few Saw films. I never cared for films of that sort in general. They were all right, I guess, but I really like films like Misery because they're almost mundane. They're kind of slow. And then when something does happen, it adds to it in a really extreme way, when it's like, almost kind of depicting a hyper realistic scenario that anyone can find themselves in.
What was your initial impression, Western Decline? Like, did you enjoy it? Was it
Uh,
is it worth discussing?
oh, I enjoyed the movie. My initial impression of it, though, like maybe this will come as a surprise, I was fucking jealous. Like everything except the injuries that the guy sustained. Like it felt like a boomer male kind of like self-insert. I can't imagine a guy from our generation being conceited enough to think that like a woman would actually act that way towards him. Whereas like boomer males really did think that like they were the prize. You know, he puts his fucking mugshot on the back of every one of his books. Like I wish I had a woman that was like that obsessed with me. You know, maybe not like smashing my limbs to keep me there, but like that was really the only bad part about it to me. Well, and she's like, she hurts the people at the hospitals and all this other shit, but the only part of the movie that really bothered me was kind of like the inversion. You know, the guy has the XX like seal of Saturn, like the goat's head behind him right at the beginning of the movie, and who's depicted as the crazy person in the film? It's the lady wearing the cross that talks about like the Bible all the time. Like kind of backward, but other than that, I wish I could trade positions. A lot of elements of the movie made me jealous, not just the woman's fascination with him, but like the fact that one police officer actually put in that much effort to like solve whatever was going on. I don't think that happens.
There weren't many characters in the film, but there's a lot to say about each of them. I think there was probably about three central characters, and no one else was given much time on screen at all.
Do you guys have a strong opinion about Stephen King at all? Do you like his books? Have you read them? Do you think he's a loser, overrated? What's your thoughts on Stephen King? Dismal, go ahead and go first.
I've never read a Stephen King book, nor would I. They're extremely long, and I don't really like that kind of novel anyway. But so I only can really assess him through the films that have been, what's the word, made to films of his novels, and they're hit or miss. Some of them are really weird. Some of them are not my thing. This one was great. The Shining, I quite like. Green Mile, obviously, I enjoyed. So it's hit or miss, I think. He as an author, my understanding of him is that he's produced, I don't know, hundreds of fucking books, and most of them are just they're just fire kindling. They're absolute trash, and then he lands on like good, some classics here and there, like anyone would who produced a million books. He's what they call a pantser, right? The writers, they call him, like, he writes from the seat of his pants. So he doesn't really have like an end in mind when he starts writing. And he just sits there and mashes keys with his fist, and produces like 100,000 books, and some of them are incredible, right? Or at least the film depictions of them are incredible. So
The main character felt like kind of a self-insert for him.
yeah, I think in a lot of his film, in a lot of these, that's the case too. The Shining, Jack Torrance was kind of supposed to be him in a way, and
I think the
I want to.
last Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the last Stephen King thing I watched was the Kingdom Hospital or whatever, like TV series adaptation from one of his other books, and that was like equally weird. You know, there's some girl in the hospital like dying of cancer, and she's like being guarded by this weird fucking anteater that walks around in the place, and the hospital's like haunted.
I know when Kubrick did the film adaptation of The Shining, which was, in my opinion, was a masterpiece. Some people think it's kind of gay, but he didn't like it at all. He didn't like what was done with his book, and then I guess he tried to come out with a TV series, The Shining, and it was just trash. he tried to make it very like woo woo magical, like kind of like the Green Mile, and nobody liked it. And I don't know. That's kind of a bad him saying that Kubrick's adaptation of his book was shit is a bad take in my opinion.
Do you guys do you have a favorite Stephen King movie?
It's cliche to say, but I mean, how can you not say The Shining? I know you might push back on that, but how can you not say The Shining?
I like here's my I've never read Stephen King because I just don't want to like listen to some nerd. He seems like a fucking establishment hack faggot. No offense to like
Like
any.
the Bill Nye of authors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just can't. I just don't want to get into his literature. I'm like a drug guy who like wants. I have to work and shit and like pay bills and like I'm like a normie guy. Like, and I have like a liberal girlfriend who's read everything. She loves Stephen King, and she's my roasty girlfriend. She just thinks Stephen King's great and has read all his literature. And I've never read any of his literature, none of it. And every single Stephen King movie is to me it's captivating at a certain level. They're kind of lowbrow or minimalist. What's the word you used, Dismal, earlier when the stream started?
Like it's for mass consumption. They're
Yeah,
minimal things,
it's
they're
kind
for
of
mass
normy.
consumption.
It's films that are maybe quote easily watchable, fine, but fuck, man, anytime I throw on anything that has anything linked to Stephen King, I enjoy it every time. Like I don't even want to like fan the balls or kiss ass or whatever. Like I just generally enjoy Stephen King film. Yeah, Dreamcatcher was great and nobody liked it. Thinner's great. Um, fuck, there's a bunch. You said The Shining. Everyone can say Shining. I mean, duh. But uh, Stephen King movies they're not perfect. The production quality can be lacking. They're not generally too long of movies. They're less than 2 hours usually. Uh, Everyone hates Hyperborean knowledge is in the chat. Yeah, Dreamcatcher. I enjoy Dreamcatcher. Everyone fucking hates that movie. That movie's awesome. It's one of my favorites, in fact. I think I've seen it a half dozen times. But
Did you ever see that Stephen King film adaptation where it's about this farmer guy and his son and his wife, and she wants to sell the estate? The name of the film is a year number. I forget. It's like not. I'm not going to get this right, but it's like 1910 or something. That's all the title of the film is. And the wife wants to move to the city and sell their farm to
The
like
one
the
where the
bank.
guy disappears his wife.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
You've
have
seen?
seen
Have you
that one.
seen it?
Yeah.
That's such a weird fucking movie, man. It's a trash movie, but I think that one day in the future that might almost be worth
I like how everybody like in that movie just like that movie was prophetic these things have been going on for a long time where women just want to flee to these like metropolis like centers. It's funny how everybody kind of responded
yeah.
to that in the film as like they kind of knew he did it, but at the other hand, like they also knew he wouldn't have done it without a reason. And when he said, "Oh, she must have left to the city," it's kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
it gives us yeah, it gives us justification for why it happened. Everyone's just kind of like, okay,
She
like
goes, yeah,
what?
like the bank, they're doing well, and then the bankman shows up on the doorstep one day and he offers to buy it. And she's like, come on, let's get out of here. Like it's never gonna be worth more than it is now. And he's like, but it's our farm though. Like, what do you mean let's get out of here? She's like, well, I'm gonna take our son and all of this stuff. The threats start flying, and he just unalives her. And then the guilt. It's a movie kind of, I guess, about how the guilt just eats at him.
do you guys have any opinions about Rob Reiner at all? Is he a solid movie maker guy? Is he trash? Is it too Jewish for you guys? Any opinion at all about Rob Reiner? He's sort of a popular figure in American film. He was famously in the movie Wolf of Wall Street. You know, he did a lot of classics in the 80s and 90s. You know, he's an American Jew. He's got kind of a certain flavor and an opinion and a viewpoint about humanity, I think. Um, maybe more cynical about like life itself and how the whole like whether people are good or bad or whatever the fuck. He's got all kinds of I don't know, he's been around a while. He's had some, you know, well-known watched films, popular films, The Princess and the Bride, A Few Good Men. Like I mentioned just a second ago about Wolf of Wall Street appearance. Do you guys have anything to say about Rob Reiner? Is this movie too Jewish? Did it does the Jew kind of the Jewish stuff kind of seep into the does it bleed? Do you feel the Jewishness of the Rob Reiner movies?
Most of the time I never find them bad, but they don't strike me as overly memorable. This film, I didn't find it to be subversive. Maybe I'm missing it was almost anti-subversive in a lot of regards, but Rob Reiner, he's all right. For me, he's just all right.
Someone in the chat, Sig, is saying he's fat, he's Jewish, and he's a gay guy. I don't know. Is he gay? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I can't even believe gay people are even a real thing. I'm still like I'm 40 years old and I can't even believe how many gay people exist. Are there really that many fags in society? It just fucking blows me away, man.
When I look at this guy, I don't know. I can't imagine either gender wanting to have sex with him. Like, maybe that's just the explanation for why he's never seen with a woman, but he's not really seen having sex with guys either. Is it less shameful to declare yourself gay or an incel? For a lot of these boomers, I think they just rather say they're gay, so nobody expects them to see them with the women or anything.
And then curry favor with the left and whatnot.
Yeah, it's beneficial.
Yeah, no, this was there's a lot of themes in this film I wanted to get to. The idea which Western you bring up a lot, like the whole Sid's denial. I think that theme kind of came up in this film. I'm sure you caught that. You know, where
They didn't want to admit the woman was like doing it. He like claims innocence. Yeah.
and so that
It is the targeting of the infants too. That's what women always. It's like she built up to this with all of her like previous acts. Like with women, like they don't take the Jeffrey Dahmer route of like, hurting small animals or anything like that. Whenever you have a woman that acts like this, it's almost always children that they're hurting every time.
Yeah, and always from this like caregiver position, and she got let off the hook for it too, which is all too often the case. What did you think about that?
Guys, is this movie like how do you feel about my pick? I picked Misery. Do you guys think this is worth discussing? Did you enjoy it? Did you get I mean, it sounds like you guys have is well received. What are your kind of initial thoughts? You watched it once, guys. You never seen it, you never heard of it. Like bring it. Like what is your kind of like your hot take, your initial thought when you think about the movie?
For
The
me, just
setting was wonderful.
yeah, the setting, the again, there's only three characters in the film. Almost it kind of reminded me of in this regard like No Country for Old Men, where you had like three characters that were it kind of went back and forth between their different archetypes through the film. The cop, the woman, and the man being held captive. And yeah, no, it was good. I received it well. I think it was kind of a story about like a bit of a warning, I guess, toward female nature and how just deceptive and not to underestimate them, not to be too naive. There's a lot I could go into with the ways in which she was smarter than they were, both the cop and the author. And their stupidity lied in the fact that they thought that they had this situation under control. I think the main character at the beginning, he almost had this attitude to me anyway. Like he thought, yeah, I'll be getting out of here any minute. You know, he's seen the situation he was in, the bars on the window, and that she was like doping him up, but he still kind of had this attitude, like, yeah, I'll be getting out of here just as soon as I feel like it. He didn't really realize how much danger he was in. I think a lot of men wind up like this with women.
I knew when I was watching the movie, like, I don't know if you ever like been a kid and you're like practicing like sneaking around your house. You don't want to like wake up your parents. Like I did a lot of this shit when I was a kid because my parents were so argumentative. And I just remember like when he breaks out of the room the first time and he goes to check the phone and the guts of the phone have been like hollowed out.
That's
I
brutal.
Yeah,
I knew that like both of those times I knew she was gonna catch him. Like I knew either he'd set the phone back down in the wrong position and she'd
yeah,
notice, or when he bumped into the little like porcelain figurine, I thought it was gonna like hit the floor. You know what I mean? And it like it's broken and she'd notice that it's missing. Like when you I relate to her in this sense. Like I've spent probably the last 10 years in like of this very small bedroom. If you spend all your time in this one place, like whether it be the town with that detective or her with her house, you notice any little change like immediately, like, and it great it like it'll eat you alive. Like why is that there? Like why is this turned? The detective noticed a fucking broken branch, and on the appreciation of the 95 or 65 Mustang, like the FBI for whatever reason overlooked that the door had been pried open. Like they just declared that he's dead somewhere under the snow, and then he's over there with his wife like, actually, like, you look at the damage here on the door. The movie kind of jumped the shark for me because I didn't understand how this woman was like carrying him around. Like she could barely lift him out of the
I was
lift
gonna
him out of
ask
the wheelchair to
Western
and from the
Klein.
bed, but carried him through a snowstorm on her back. Like,
Yeah, yeah, guys, that's one thing I wanted to point out, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Western Klein. Like, do the plot holes bother you guys? Like, there's always plot holes in, when stories are told in film. Like, did the plot holes in this particular film, did it bother you?
it didn't really bother me, no.
You know
Just
what I mean? With like a grown man, he wasn't able to escape. He spent the winter in this home. He wasn't able to get out. He's a man. She's
well,
a woman.
part of me wonders, like, I wonder if you read the book that this I'm assuming this is based on. I was left with the impression the whole way through the movie, and I kind of got confirmed when she sledgehammered his ankles. I always thought like she probably fucked up his legs while he was unconscious the first time too, because they were so disproportionately injured to the rest of his body, and that doesn't even make sense to sustain an injury like that in the sort of accident that happened. You'd think it would be like a neck injury. The shoulder
yeah, upper
dislocation kind of
body.
makes sense. Like it's not like a head-on collision, which is where the legs normally get fucked up in old cars like that, because the whole, like, there's no crumple zone. It all gets the steering wheel column and everything gets pushed into your legs. It just kind of did a barrel roll down the hill.
You guys kind of already said it a little bit, I think, but is there anything particular maybe that both of you want to express or let out, about uh, like with the film, like what is it that resonated? I think you guys have already said some of that already
Let,
too.
let me let me let me make, I
What
think,
resonated with you guys? Like what's the message of the story that really kind of, it hits home with you guys? What is it
let
that
me let me make the most succinct point that I can about my takeaway here. You have these two men who are depicted as being of a superior intellect, right? The cop in his domain, right? Investigation. He's better than all the other cops. And this author, he's renowned. He's not just some fucking guy that's struggling to try to make it. He's renowned for this novel. And yet she was smarter than both of them. And a lot of that was made possible solely by their naivety, right? They underestimate the kind of cunning and the callousness and the thinking 5 steps ahead that women need to be able to do. And in her case, it was scary. You could tell she was very high IQ, but she was also physically very strong. She was like big, fat, broad shoulder woman. She could probably body check you through a wall if she caught you off balance, right? So it wasn't just like this feeble woman that was dumb and you're gonna, push her out of your way and just walk out the front door. Like he was in a lot of fucking trouble there. And I don't think he realized it until he woke up and she had found his knife, and that's when he realized, the extent of the situation.
The cop too. The cop who kind of doomed himself by underestimating her, because on the one hand, he knows that she's been like killing people, right? That's why he goes out there to like investigate in the first place after discovering she's like using quotes from the book at her like trial. And he should have known how like cunning and dangerous she was when she immediately like her brain put together how he had figured out to investigate her, and she started like leading an explanation of like, I bought all this paper so that I could, start trying to write the books myself, and I couldn't do it, and all this other shit. like like you were saying, it's thinking 5 steps ahead, and the guy like underestimates her because she's like a country bumpkin.
Yeah, when he came back into the house after hearing the guy rattling around in the basement, he didn't like at no point did it enter this otherwise highly intelligent man's mind that she would shoot it out with him. She would, take it to the guns, or like he just never even thought that. He
It was
probably had,
instant too, just blasted him in the back.
yeah,
Like,
he probably had this like conception of women that, was beat into him or whatever growing up. And he just didn't think that they had that capacity for violence, even as you said,
Guys,
knowing
guys,
what she had done.
guys, I watched this many years ago when I was very young, and I've seen it a number of times over the years. And I've watched Rob Reiner films over the years. The Albert Brooks film. What's the name of it? I'm trying to remember. He did that Albert Brooks film, defending my life, and the viewpoint in this film about it's that people suck and people are like shitty and people are sinners or whatever. Like she's like, the cross is very, very evident in the film. She's a Christian. She's like this like nice lady in a small town, but like people are I guess like what I take away from the film is that people are mostly evil or bad or shitty, and that like the idea that like people are going to do these good things, or that the whole good evil people being bad, or like people are pretty shitty, and I think that that expresses it in the film. And then maybe I'm reaching, or maybe that's off the mark, where you know with like the Jewish aspect of things, like it's like anti-white, or not anti-white, anti-Christian, and that like it attacks like the Christian side of things in the movie, where you're kind of seeing this kind of you know um propaganda against Christianity maybe in the film. But like it, to me, it hits home where people are mostly kind of terrible, and that's kind of why I like the movie. But maybe that's like Jewish propaganda. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
uh, I think it's the anti-Christian slant's kind of two-sided, because on the one hand, it could be the overt criticism of like, Christian people aren't moral. Like, look at what they do when they're not, wearing their cross in public and telling people not to curse. On the other hand, it's also kind of another like condemnation of Christianity, where this idea that people can always be forgiven, even if you view it from the perspective of, she has some misgivings about what she's done. She's like, she's on some level remorseful. She's worried about having to answer for it one day. So she's trying to like do this stuff to like compensate for her evil deeds. Like it's purely performative. You know, I uh, I was reading a thread on Poll today about fucking Riley Reid, like fucking and her husband and having a kid and everything, and the same criticism was made. Like, are you really supposed to forgive these people? Like, isn't that God's job to forgive them? Like, do you really have to change, like, your perception of them and give them a fresh start after all of this? I'm not sure it's possible.
Yeah, the attack on the notion of like righteous judgment, that and again, you're not allowed to judge anyone, but you have to forgive. It's very inconsistent. I think it was probably uh, an interpretation that was born of the capture of Christian theology by the usual suspects. But Thomas, to your point about people being shitty, I think this film did a really good job at conveying the idea that shitty people understand that people are shitty, whereas people that's heart is in the right place, they tend to have this like benevolence fallacy. So I'll give you an example from the film, right? When she knocks over the wine glass that had been drugged for her, I think that was intentional. I think she knew. So
That's a
the
great. I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask both of you guys that. That was intentional, was it not? You already
well,
said
I'll explain why. I'll explain why, right? The idea on his part, that she's drugging him this whole time, as she's drugged, hundreds of other people that were patients of hers when she worked in medical profession. To think that she would have a blind spot to someone else drugging her when she stepped out of the room and left her glass unattended is asinine. It's ridiculous on his part to think that she wouldn't clue into that, right? Like if you were killing people, then you would know that you'd always be like worried about killers and stuff. You're thinking in that mentality, that mode. So again, like he just keeps getting outwitted throughout this whole film
And
until the very end. He does end up, getting the upper hand, but not through his wits either, really. Maybe to an extent, but
to add on to that too, he used the same technique every time she'd leave the room and he'd try to like be doing something while she's out of the room. He'd talk to her. He'd like say something out to her. Meanwhile, like whenever she's in the room, she's directing the conversation. But whenever she left the room, he's directing the conversation in an attempt to like gauge distance of like how far away she is. And it was like very obvious to me.
and it would have been, in my opinion, very obvious to her as well, but she wasn't making things explicit like when he left the room the first time. Sometimes if somebody's stealing from you, right, the best thing you can do is kind of allow it to continue, and you can gauge what's this person, what is their intent here. I'm going to learn, actually. I'm not just going to out them right away. And so she had him on this very long leash throughout the whole film. She was, allowing him to like escape and then return to his room, and not acknowledging at first that she was aware he had done this.
Well, and the idea that you could sneak a kitchen knife too, like he didn't take like a small knife that might not be noticed. He took like a comically large one, like the one from the top right hand corner of like the knife block on the kitchen
the
counter.
chef
Like,
knife,
yeah,
the
like
the
if
big
there's a
dog
knife
knife.
that will be missed, it's that one. It's the largest one in the room. Like,
Yeah, a lot of
Guys, Annie is very observant. She's manipulative. I don't like it. There's something that like resonates with me in my old kind of younger years, and now that I'm like old, I've seen this film on numerous times over the years, and when I was young, and now I'm older, and it kind of like the Annie character is interesting. It's almost like she, like I said, observant. She's manipulative, but lacks power. Like there's a weird dynamic or a weird thing where I feel like the incel crowd, the dissident right crowd, can kind of like almost appreciate Annie. Like Annie's like the little like playing in like the small like at the kiddie table and wanting to like be in control of things. And it's like you're not in power there, Bucko. You're not having sex there, Bucko. you're like in this little world, this little realm, and you get to kind of do, play pretend, and but it's almost, but at the same time, it's real because she's got, guys. I'm kind of talking out of my ass, but do you guys get what I'm saying with this? Like, she's like the underdog who wants control and power. And that's a lot of like the dissident right and the incel crowd. Is this not, this movie's almost like made for incels and dissidents? Am I wrong, guys?
That's how I feel when I'm on Twitter and I go into these chats and I hear all of these guys. They're like, "This is how it's gonna be, and that's how it ought to be." And then you're like, "Wait a minute, you're nothing. You have zero power here at all. You're like sitting here, you know, telling everybody how it's gonna be, and it's like it's just fantasy."
I couldn't relate
It's
to any of the
movie.
characters in the movie. Like a little bit with Annie, probably more than the others. You're right, but like the author's like a pompous like idiot. You know, like the second I seen his self portrait on the back of his books where it's not even relevant, I knew. And like when he throws the snowball at the tree right at the beginning, goes, ha, still got it, like, and then hops in his Mustang, and it's like you're this arrogant boomer. Like it advertised his arrogance to the audience. Like I can land a snowball. Like yeah, I'm still an athlete. I'm still in my physical prime, and then yeah, I'm so sharp with my wits and my reaction speed. I'm gonna drive my rear wheel drive muscle car down a fucking mountainside in the middle of a blizzard. Like imagine the arrogance to like act like that. So I didn't really feel bad for him at all. I felt like, like what were you hoping to what were you hoping to cultivate by putting out like a book like that? A lot of the better authors in history wrote under like pseudonyms, and they didn't even like you didn't know who was doing the writing. Why would it be necessary for you to attach your image to these things?
Yeah, that's a great point, especially when it is the books that he was writing were like goy slop for like high libido old women and stuff like this. Like it was clearly targeting a certain demographic that would be prone to do something like this. Obviously, you don't imagine that that's going to happen to you, but I mean, you play with fire, you get burned.
Something I noticed, guys, and I don't know if maybe this fits, but this kind of watching the film, and somebody is in a, they have a life, and their life is maybe not what they thought it was going to be, and they're unhappy or maybe resent their work, and that's part of the theme of the movie, where, well, not it's that, what I like about the movie is you don't get to just pick what you are or who you are. You're a romance novelist, and sorry there, Bucko, you don't get to just like write whatever you want. You got to keep writing misery because that's what sells. And being kind of stuck in a certain position in life is sort of something that maybe sticks out with me in this film, that you don't get to live your own life and do you. You have to do what you've been put on this earth to do. You're It's like the taxi driver meme or whatever, like the movie, with Taxi Driver, where you are what you are. You drive a taxi. You're a taxi driver, and you write stupid romance novels. You don't get to breach or break through or leave the life that you've been given. And that's something I kind of like about the movie, that you're kind of you're stuck. And that's maybe a message in the film. Western Decline, does that fit at all?
I think it's like more boomer entitlement because it's not good enough that he's like a rich author who gets to do his work in the privacy of like a rented cabin off in like a small quiet little town where he drives a sports car. He can afford to buy like expensive like alcohols like while he's there. He's not like short of anything. And like his biggest grievance in life is that he's known only for writing that book. Like that's not good enough for him. You have like more humble kind of artists that I think who's the guy that makes Dragon Ball Z? He just died recently, right? I don't think that guy ever complained. You know, he kept pumping out the slop all the way up until he passed away because it had such like a fan following. The demand for it was ravenous. And this guy, like, he, in a way, like, he is selfish, like she described. Like, he did kill off that character intentionally, like one that a lot of people had come to like relate to, and they were emotionally invested in. I feel this myself with that George R.R. Martin retard. Like, hurry up and finish your shit, your book already, you fucking idiot. You better finish it before you die. Like, even so, just so I get another season of like television goy slop when your book's done. Like, I'm sick of the. Don't leave this shit unfinished. Same thing with Berserk. Like, all these stories, like, finish the shit. Like, what's worse than even he did is people that don't even finish it, that don't wrap it up. They just leave it as like a perpetual cliffhanger for eternity.
Yeah, it was funny too the way that she was kind of parasitic on him writing this. It was almost like she knew what needed to be done, but at the same time she couldn't string it together. And I think that again, this is sort of like even very intelligent women, the most intelligent women, they still lack a certain like creative spark or ingenuity or whatever, inventiveness, where she kind of knew it. And I was thinking at a certain point, like, why doesn't this bitch just write the fucking book herself? But it was parasitic. She needed him to do it. Like, he had to be the host body that typed it up and strung it together. But he was very constrained and with what she would allow him to include and exclude from this book. So yeah, it's again, right, just
I want to mention, I talked about the incel and the dissidents, and maybe this Annie character, no connection with the outside world, kind of like shut in, putting on a good mask. I kind of relate to this movie because of this, guys. Like, where it's like this woman is playing pretend around other people, and I feel like I do that all the time in the clown world, in modern, modernity, and this contemporary, America or whatever. It resonates. Like, this movie never gets old for me, and I'm not saying I watch it every day, but it's like it never gets old for me. Like, I kind of get like the whole with Annie being manipulative, being an observant character, but then also being a shut-in and being like away from the world and wanting to kind of create her own little world. And like, I really, this movie, it's not great, it's not perfect, there's plot holes, it's a little bit, it's formulaic or whatever, it's slow, or it's easily consumable, but there is something that kind of touches with me. Do you have anything to say to that, Dismal?
yeah, I do. Like I said before, when we watched The Last Castle and we reviewed that, I always go back to this because I think there's two kind of films, right? Some of them are morally leading, and then others are like morally open to interpretation. And this would fall under the latter for me. And I like those kind of films. Like, as a general rule of thumb, on the first watch of this film, it's very easy to see, like, okay, cop is a good guy and she's clearly the bad guy, and then he's sort of a good guy or he's sort of like a bad guy that becomes good, something like this, right? But on subsequent watches of this film, it'd be very easy to see how you could kind of come to see these things different. Same like No Country for Old Men, right? Like, after the second, third watch of the film, you've morally like altered your perception of the characters in the film, right? The cop, the bounty hunter, the outlaw.
Yeah, what was the quote from the guy? You know, if all your rules led you to this, then what good were they?
Yeah,
It's like, it's very
yeah. The only real moral guy in the film, right? Which was like the antagonist. And it seemed like this movie, I like how it didn't try to they didn't make this like moral fag wall between certain characters and try to lead you like these are have to be the good guy, those have to be the bad guy, like James Gandolfini in The Last Castle, right? There's no freedom for me to really perceive him as anything but just like a bad guy. They didn't leave open. Whereas this film
So
did a really good job at allowing you to like arrive at your own conclusions about these different characters.
I wanted to mention, guys, and or does Decline? Did you want to say something?
I think the film would have been more compelling if she didn't have this history of like killing infants and everything, because it did like it damned her. You know what I mean? Like she's like she's like ontologically evil. You know, another thing that annoyed me about the boomer though and showed that he was like a shit person is when she introduces him to her pet pig. And like, why didn't you fucking pet the thing or something, man? Like it's not like it's filthy. It's not like it's been rolling around in like a
God
shit
damn
pit
it!
or something.
You like
Like,
let the
why
cat
do
out
you
of the bag. Decline. I wanted to ask you guys about this like relationship with, you know, the writer and Wilkes and this kind of. And I might be reaching here, but I just want to because you mentioned the scene with the pig and his reaction, Western Decline, and this sort of and I understand Sheldon is like an English surname. He's not quote Jewish, but there is a weird thing with like media and presentation with how they portray the antagonists. You know, Annie Wilkes is got the cross present all the time in this movie, and she has a pet pig, you know, pork. And I'm just curious, guys, like maybe I'm reaching, but this relationship with Jews and Christians, where the Christians love Jews, and Sheldon is an English surname. I understand that, but they did use James Caan in the film. He is Jewish, and that relationship between Christians and Jews maybe is evident. And when you watch the movie, where Christians love Jews and Jews just don't think very highly of these people, these Christian folk. Does that maybe, am I reaching, guys? Like that's kind of what I seen in this movie, where the Jew actor, the main protagonist, has resentment and disgust. But Annie Wilkes, the Christian, loves Sheldon, who's in the movie is a Jewish actor. Is there anything going on there, guys? Like I don't want to like sound too conspiratorial or be like I'm reaching, but that
One thing that would kind of corroborate that take for me would be that the pig didn't have any significance in the film, which was odd to me. I was almost thinking that it might play a role. Like, what was that guy in Western Canada that he's a
Picton?
serial killer? Picton, Robert Picton, thank you. Like, I almost thought she was gonna do some like Robert Picton shit with the pig, and or at least threaten to or attempt to, but it didn't feature again in the film. So you do have to ask, like, why? Again, nothing in a film is just there for no reason, right? So if it wasn't involved in the plot in any way, it wasn't foreshadowing anything, it wasn't to reappear later, like nothing, right? Then yeah, how do you make sense of it? And I think
well,
that might lend some credence to
I
what you're
think I
saying.
might be reaching, but it's just so funny how the protagonist is, or the quote good guy, the guy being held captive is the Jew boy, and then you got the Christian girl who's like the loon, and then like there's some Jew director, and it's a Stephen King movie, and it's like the Christians love the Jews, and the Jews hate or get disgusted by the Christians. This is very like the presentation of that movie. This movie is the Jew Israeli kind of viewpoint where or the Jew Christian viewpoint where that's what's being kind of demonstrated. And I don't want to sound like a loon or that I like like I'm trying to find things that aren't there, but that's kind of what I see after watching it so many times.
I feel like, again, this is one of those films where there is a lot of symbolism that's like deeply embedded in the Easter eggs and whatnot. I'm not highly skilled at noticing those kind of symbolic meanings and stuff. But I'm very good at intuiting when they're there. Like there's something here at a more kind of esoteric level that someone would have to really invest in this film to. And
I
there's
think
a sorry, just to make one more point. There is a, I looked up today before getting on here, like how many reviews of this were done. There's not very many videos on YouTube or anywhere of this film where like some big brain autists have gone and pulled it all apart. I think there was one guy who did, and it wasn't even very good. It's not like The Shining where there's like 24 esoteric reviews of it and they're, analyzing the tiles on the floor. But I think that this film may warrant something like that, like a thorough analysis by some fucking gigabrain.
Talking about like the Easter eggs, she in the movie, the night she was like depressed when it was raining, I believe, she said to him that she knows he doesn't like love her. She's not like the movie star type. And she kind of has these books are her escapism. It would be kind of like if somebody tried to take like my World of Warcraft away from me without any warning or anything. Like these books are the place where she gets to pretend to be like the desired woman, and throughout her house she has all these like images of like a Stacy, like this like just blonde girl. Like she had the blonde doll, she has got like the one in his room, like she just got these things all over the place. And they don't look like her. It's obviously like not her kid, but it's like all over her home. And I think it's kind of like instead of having mirrors all over your house, if you don't like, what you see in them, you put up these like images of what you wish you were, like almost a motivational poster of sorts.
guys,
Yeah.
guys, guys, I'm curious. Like, well, why don't you go first, Western Klein? Like, Annie Wilkes is what? Dot dot dot. Like, what is Annie Wilkes? A psycho, a crazy person, a evil? What is your kind of description of the antagonist of the film?
Hate. I think she's hateful. I think I wish they in the movie they would have maybe mentioned her. It wouldn't surprise me if she's infertile and like
That's
she
why her husband left her, probably. Yeah.
maybe why he left her, why she has no children of her own, why she kills other people's like babies in the hospital. Um I think women struggle with this a lot more than guys do. Like guys on some level can kind of accept like, I didn't make the cut or whatever, like I wasn't up to snuff. I'm not like, I'm not passing on. But I think women, especially with the way women see themselves as like the arbiters of eugenics, like they get to decide which genes go into the next generation, to be dealt that hand by a creator where they're just like, yeah, you can't even have kids, feels like a tremendous slap in the face to them, and I think a lot of them just go off of the deep end because of this.
You know what I found funny too about the dynamic of the relationship between the two main characters was that he was almost getting the experience kind of that like a lot of modern women would get in the sort of objectification and the pedestalization. So what I mean to say, right? It's very easy for men to complain about like the hand we're dealt because the way we get kind of socially beat down and stripped of our dignity and whatnot. But women do, I do hear their grievances and whatnot to some extent. And one of them is that they're always, sexually objectified. That's all they're viewed as, right? And it can't, like, it has to be that way, but it would be annoying to always be looked at that way. And if you notice that she never talks to him as like anything other than the author, right? He's just this author. It's like there's no break in the film where she just talks to him about something personal, something casual ever. And again, she's like fanatical about him. It's like he's getting the opposite experience that like an excess male would get, where you're not viewed as having any value. You're like like they say, they don't hate you, they're indifferent, or they don't hate you, they don't acknowledge you. It's like he's getting too much of the opposite extreme, like women kind of get, right? It's like you can't
No, that's one thing I noticed, guys, with the film and how it's presented. With Annie Wilkes' husband left her. Um, there's the
Did
main.
he actually leave?
Maybe
I
not.
thought she killed him. I thought that maybe
that,
I could
yeah,
be
she
wrong.
killed him.
That's just
Yeah, she
kind of the
That
killed him.
that
impression
might
I
be
got.
true, but then like the relationship between man and women, and girlfriend or husband. You have Annie Wilkes, who's doesn't have a husband anymore. You have the hotshot famous guy who has a daughter but not a wife. And then there's this kind of dynamic between the sheriff and his own wife, with cynicism and irony, or what's the word?
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm was stated in the film. Like the struggle with like relationship in the movie. Like the movie's titled Misery. No one has real like a loving family. Like everyone's kind of trying to, I don't know, like even with the sheriff, like he has a wife, but they're at each other's throat and talking shit about each other the whole movie. And it's kind of funny to me, like with the title Misery. It's sort of like, I guess that's why I identify with this movie a little bit, with like the title Misery. And no,
They
there
never show this guy's
isn't.
wife or kid either. They allude to the fact that he has a wife and kid, I think, but they don't show them even for like a second on the news, like help us find, our husband. They're mentioned, but they're not shown. And it kind of led me to believe that he had like a bit of a unloving family.
And then there's the end of the film and how he reacts to his agent about Annie Wilkes. Not maybe not even, it's not like Stockholm syndrome or whatever. It's like
PTSD.
yeah. You want to explain that a little bit, Western Klein, like with the how he kind of views Annie in the end of the at the end of the day.
Well, she was kind of like a forge that like hardened his steel. Like he was under the gun and he did like shit out a book and it was like good enough to satisfy somebody that was like obsessed with the previous series. So I guess it kind of gave him confidence that he could write anything even if he didn't want to or didn't think it was going to be good.
I just like this movie.
Right.
Guys, I just like this movie, Misery. And you got some guy, some boomer, like shoveling fucking like ash into this fucking fat woman's face. Like this movie's awesome. Like there is no fucking like romance. There is no fucking lovey
You know
dovey.
what Thomas, you know what I took away from the end scene where he like mistaken identity Danny for the waitress? It showed me this guy's still a dumb fuckwit that didn't really learn anything. And the reason why is that he's still kind of seen what happened to him as like some random, inexplicable act. He didn't understand that, the type of person she was, how to understand the nature of like humans, women, men, fanaticism, and the way that he was kind of baiting people with his writing. Like he just viewed this as like some random act that could happen again. He didn't understand how it happened the first time, right? So he didn't learn anything from. He said he learned from it, but he didn't. The only thing he said he learned from it was that he was like basically taking life for granted, which was the opposite come away that he should have had from his capture and ordeal. Like it made me hate him more at the end when he was all traumatized. Because if somebody truly understood like how this happened and why it wouldn't recur, if he understood what happened, it wouldn't recur because it's an easily avoidable situation. But he was all spooked like a little bitch, and he was like looking over his shoulder, all skittish. And did you get that or no? Like that was my.
Yeah, Annie was like socially isolated and like that's what made her like go off the deep end. Like women aren't built to live that life. And to get worried about like a waitress turning out like that woman's probably sick of socializing with people. Be like the last person that's gonna kidnap somebody.
You know what was weird too, more to the point, like I don't even think Annie had any sexual, like I don't think she wanted to fuck him. I don't think she had any real sexual attraction to this guy. It was just about the book. That was it. Like he owed her the book. He owed her like the rightful and just ending of the book. It wasn't even like a sexual predator or anything like that. Which again I found odd. Like she
Almost like,
wasn't even attracted to
guys,
she didn't
it was like
she wasn't like fantasizing about like making out with him or marrying him. She didn't really seem to even have those thoughts about him.
there's almost a weird thing with even with like by the end of it, it's like containment that you got to keep doing what you're doing there, Bucko. You can't stray away. And some woman like kind of corralled the man. Maybe I'm reaching, guys. Like I don't know. Like she held him in his space. Does that make sense? Am I guys at all? That she kept him from going out, straying away.
From his duty, like she seemed it as like a dutiful obligation. And yeah, it is interesting when you have like a relationship between, you know, a creator and the fan base. Like, is there any level of beholdenness? Is there any kind of duty that you have? Or a lot of shows and books and whatnot, they just fuck off at the end. Um, Game of Thrones was like very famous for this, where it just went awry at the end and turned to shit. So people will say, like a lot of movies are like this, where they'll say watch like part 1 and 2 but not 3, like you know, Godfather or Alien. And yeah, like can you say that creation, the Godfather, the Alien trilogies, like did the producers have any duty? Like did they, or can they just be selfish and say, well, it's mine, I'll fucking ruin it if I want? Like, you know, can Da Vinci just like rip up the Mona Lisa or whatever and like piss on it? It is an interesting topic for debate for sure. I think it, you know, that kind of discussion divides people a lot. When you put something out and it becomes like part of the culture, part of the masses, it's like, do they also have like a stake in it, or does the author have a monopoly? Like, well, I don't know. It depends where you stand on that. I guess how you view her ultimately is where you stand on that issue.
Did you guys have an appreciation for a particular scene, a favorite scene? Is there something in was there some is there a takeaway from a certain
I
scene, a favorite scene, anything?
I, I,
Just
I want to talk about, and I think you'll probably already know what I'm going to say. So the scene when she breaks his feet, I don't know what it was about the filming. I've seen every kind of gore you could imagine. I've seen fucking cartel cannibal gore and anything you could imagine happening to people, like of real human beings, right? And I'm not squeamish, but that scene where she hammered his feet, I almost had to look away from. I don't know what it was about it. Maybe you can explain to me. It was just that one really fucking got to me.
Maybe it's how she built up to it, and like you knew what was coming the second she started talking about like escaped slaves, and the fact that he had just healed from that kind of an equivalent injury, only to have it like immediately reinflicted.
And it sealed it too for him. I think it was maybe like the idea that any hope that he was going to defeat this woman was just gone in an instant. Like it pretty much sealed it for him at that point, I think. I had thought that the feet came right off initially, and I guess it just really fucked them up bad. I thought she was like going to remove his feet like an amputation, but with a hammer, and it was just like the thought of it hit that big 4x4 between his ankles, and it was pretty fucking grisly, that scene.
Why do like what is with the trope of detectives always driving like a Ford Bronco or like a Chevy Blazer? Like I've seen this in probably 10, 20 different pieces of media of the era.
That's funny you say that because I agree. It always some rural fucking cop driving a fucking SUV from like the 80s. Yeah.
Like they did it in Stranger Things too. Like that guy does the same thing, like drives the exact same kind of like vehicle. I don't understand.
So, is this movie like widely popular, or because one thing I was reading is that this woman, Kathy
It
Bates,
really couldn't be popular because it came out when Home Alone came out. So that was kind of
she
a
received what people were saying was that she received 2 awards. She received an Academy Award and a Golden Globes for this role, and he didn't get bunk. And a lot of people were saying that this was like one of the biggest injustices of like
well, that
award.
was why James Caan. See, they had like big shots that like were offered the role. I think Warren Beatty, or whatever his name is, that hotshot Chad or whatever from the 80s. There's a bunch of actors that were offered this role and they were afraid to take this role because they feared of being overshadowed by Annie Wilkes. The
People
protagonist.
were people were saying that he outacted the fuck out of her in this movie, though. And now they were saying that a lot of what ruined her acting in this movie was the whole how it was almost like very dorky. She was like what do they call the fuck, what's that term? The chungus,
Corky Chungus.
the corky chung. That's it. Thank the corky chungus, right? Where she was like, "Oh, Mister, I'm just gonna have to like tie you up to the heckin' bedpost," like. And a lot of people didn't like that. I kind of thought
And
that
like
added,
her substitute curse words.
yeah,
Yeah.
people didn't like it. They apparently a lot of the people that were like detesting her, the award she received, and not him. He said he outacted her in this film by leaps and bounds. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
I don't know. I don't think the acting is all like very like one dimensional in both ends. Like she toggles back and forth between sweet and crazy, and he just has to pretend to be scared the whole time. Like it wasn't a very like acting intensive movie. You know what I mean? Like
I think Annie is like an extreme or like hyperbolic depiction of a woman, of an archetype of a woman that I have met before, though, where they're like
Wait a minute. Dismal, isn't that the appeal? Like what what we've all seen gore. We've all seen horror. But Annie Wilkes, some frumpy woman from like the fucking rural area, like that's the scariest part. Like about the movie, that's what makes the movie scary. Is it's like some Christian woman who's more evil than anybody's ever imagined. Like that's kind of why. Like I don't know. I don't want to do the anti-Christian thing, but we like these kind of kooky nut fucking job frumpy women. Like that's the appeal to the film, is that what makes this movie scary is it's not it kind of catches you off guard for the average person that women aren't bad. She's like a nice lady. She's gonna help you. She's gonna take care of you. And then, like, wait a minute, she's a serial killer. That's the scary aspect. That's what makes this movie scary. You don't need all the gore. There's like some certain sequences in the movie, or like scenes where it is, oh my God, it's very, very, over the top or whatever. But that, I think that's part of the appeal. It's like, it's not your typical, like, you know, antagonist, serial killer, evildoer. It's a frumpy woman from like, a small town.
she had her own kind of moral system too, which was it was like a private moral framework, and she was like consistent within it. And I don't know if that's sort of a result of like her being isolated for a long time. Again, the internet didn't exist back then, so if you were living in a place like she was, you were kind of cut off from human contact. And it seemed like she was operating within some kind of moral framework. It just wasn't what we would consider to be like normal at all. But she did have ways of like justifying everything she was doing, and they were consistent. And I've met people like this. You'll hear the reasons and the rationale for the things that they do, and it's like you're just staggered by the way they justify their actions, but it makes sense to them. They're not just they're not inconsistent. They're just over there, right? Like they're not relatable to you. I think she was kind of like that. There was an underlying reason in her mind for, why everything she did had to be done the way it was done. And those are the like more scary people. Like again, No Country for Old Men with Sugar. Like he was very moralistic. It just wasn't your morality. It wasn't mainstream morality. He almost devised his own system and was like beholden to that.
I think what bothers people about that is you see it like in our society, for example, there's police positions and stuff for hostage negotiator, right? Like you have these people whose job it is to try and talk people down from, whatever heinous act they're trying to do. And if you have an antagonist like that, it's not going to work. It's going to be even more ineffective because they feel like morally justified in what they're doing through their own reasoning.
Like exactly, right? If you have some low IQ retard that's just impulsive, like they're just responding in a reactionary emotional way, there doesn't seem to be any kind of like consistent moral thread throughout it, then like just stay. This is how I treat like Native Americans. I just stay away from them, right? Because they don't have a moral at all. But that's very different than like a kind of a high IQ psychopath type who is very moralistic, but their moral system is one that they devised in private. It's not the one that is what we accept in our culture. It's not the one that you were raised in. It's something very different. And I think she had that, which again, she was scary to me. Like I don't know if they classed this as a horror film. It's kind of in between like a horror film on the fringe of like being drama, but this movie was a little bit scary for me, to be honest, because it was like fairly realistic. I think people like this do exist.
Was it a slog for you guys? Did the movie hold up? Did it capture your attention? Were you bored by it? Did you enjoy it? Go ahead, guys.
It kind of
Personally, I like
will
slog films. I didn't find this boring though.
it wilted in the middle for me because I kind of knew like what was happening. Like it had a lot of like tropes in it. Like when the second you see like the hairpin left on the ground, I know okay, he's gonna try and pick the door with that. Like the second he starts stashing pills away, okay, I know he's gonna poison her. The second you saw that like 4x4 between her legs, that like okay, she's gonna do something to his feet. Like
It was highly predictable. Everything in this film was very highly predictable. The only like the foreshadowing was extremely obvious. The only thing that made it unpredictable for me was that I couldn't quite gauge how stupid the characters in the film. Like sometimes they were so dumb that it almost wasn't even realistic to me. If that makes sense. Like it was I would expect even normies in the real world to have a little bit more um a little bit more like predictive abilities and stuff, then sometimes the actors in this film seemed like cartoonishly dumb, if that makes sense. That was the only thing that wasn't that's the only thing that prevented this movie for me from being like perfectly predictable, was that I couldn't predict like how dumb the characters were, because it was cartoonish at times.
I think boomers are really just kind of that dumb, because this is like a psychological, like, horror intrigue escape film, like, written by, like, the boomer author, aimed at, like, boomers and not children. And these were thought to be like the highbrow ideas of the day. Like, this is the best we can do in terms of like there's been real prison escapes that have been far more like creative than this, and this is supposed to be like a fantastical, like, like, entertainment. I don't know who'd go. I struggle to imagine the sort of person that would pay to go see this in theaters.
Yeah, it's again, yeah, the predictability, I guess. If I didn't find it to be a slog, no, because I do like the pacing of the film. This pacing wise, it was right up my alley. I don't like overly stimulating, overly dramatized like special effects and stuff. So pacing wise, I didn't find it sloggy, but again, yeah, so I found it a bit overly predictable, which I could see being off-putting. So,
Is this
uh,
movie like Jewish? I mean, all movies are Jewish, but like, how Jewish is this movie, guys? Like, did you feel like it was subversive and or too Jewish at all? I don't want to obsess with the anti-Semitism, but like, is this movie like, is it?
I think it was minimally Jewish. There's far worse out there. You could still, like, if you if you could, if you were guessing, right? If somebody put a gun to your head and was like, "Who made this movie?" after watching it, like, you could easily guess who did, but it wasn't like over the top like a lot of them.
the other point that I found interesting, or maybe just worth pointing out briefly, the way that she ended up getting caught, or at least first suspected, like what kind of tipped the cop that it was her, was that he was like backing out of a parking spot or something, and she came flying by in her car and like yelled something stupid at him, like, get out of the way. And so even as intelligent as she was, like most women, I mean, she was still prey to her own just entitlement, low impulse control. If she
It was
hadn't
the
done
road
that,
rage. The mask
her,
slipped for a second.
yeah, it slipped for a second, and it was like all that it took, right? As smart as she was, as cunning as she was what she was, and she was just like an entitled bitch woman, and the mask slipped, and that was like, if not for that little thing right there, she'd have kept him indefinitely. She could have probably kept him forever. They would have just given up hope on, everybody had given up hope on finding him. Eventually this cop would have as well. And
Well, guys, I like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say horror, but this is more horrific than your average horror movie, is it not?
I could see myself getting into, to be honest, Thomas, like I could see myself almost getting into a situation like this, just based on some of the people that I've like intentionally exposed myself to. Um, some of the women that I knew were, so some of the women that were like very mentally ill. I've still gone over to their house. I've still like willingly placed myself. And you, again, as a man, you always think you're in control, but that's not always the case. And I'm smart enough. I wouldn't accept a drink from somebody. I wouldn't, I want to know where my exits are. I'm high alert, but sometimes it's not always enough. I mean, it's like second and third order scheming, right? So like if somebody if you're in danger, you know you're in danger, but they know that you're in danger. And you know that you know, and so on and so forth, right? Like it's kind of this who's seeing more moves ahead and who can entrap who. And I don't see this as being overly Jewish. I think that people watching this film might learn something about not underestimating women. That they are equipped with a faculty.
What I like about the movie, guys, is it's not like, I don't know, like, you know how there's it's like kind of more realistic. I don't want to sound gay or whatever, but like it's not like magic and spirits and all this stuff we see with different types of like horror movies, or even gory for that matter. It's just people being terrible, and that's more horrifying, I think, than some of the other kind of types of movies that you would see that you would categorize as horror movies. This is more scary to me because it's kind of more raw and real. It's supernatural. Thank you, thank you, Barrison Getterix in the chat. It's like with Stephen King, there's a lot of hokey kind of, supernatural is the perfect word. This doesn't have that. It's just a fucking crazy woman. That's the appeal for me.
How familiar would you say you are with the Karla Homolka case? Like, I'm sure most people have heard about this, right?
I'm pretty familiar. I watched all the Program to Kill video series about
Yeah, highly recommended. But yeah, William Eschenfelder here says, careful, dismal, crazy bitch is dangerous. I had one set me up to get robbed. The idea that I'm trying to have people take away from this film is that females are no less predatory than males. They do it differently. And in a way, their method is a lot more effective. And it's, it relies on like baiting and seduction and things like this.
I'd say it's more dangerous because 99% of the time it's all covert. Like
exactly, and it taps in. It's not just pure logical traps, or it's not just pure like outsmartsmanship. They're able again to tap into like your biological drivers, right? Whether that's your libido or your sympathy mechanism, your empathy, your nurturing mechanisms. Even the cutest girls in the world, like they seem, how could she possibly be malicious? But the outward appearance have nothing to do with the capacity for like violence, predation, looking like Karla Homolka, right? And they let her off because of this whole thing. Even the judges were like basically naive misandrists. It's just like, they let her out of jail to basically dime out Paul Bernardo. And then they realized, she was pretty much at the helm, at least more than he was, for sure.
I mean, she'd basically have to be to let that happen to her sister and even encourage it
Yep.
and set it up. Like,
A lot of times, this is this notion that men are predatory, and when females do these kind of things, it's very exceptional. It's anomalous.
well, I think
No,
it's
it's not.
anomalous that they actually get apprehended or like punished for it. It's anomalous to hear about it, not that it happens.
Yeah, people get set up. People get set up to get
Guys,
beat up.
don't you see, maybe I'm missing the mark a little, but there's a certain level, like the film's appealing because women kind of got a little bit or get what they deserve. Women aren't maybe viewed in a they're viewed kind of in a different way in this movie? Is that maybe part of the appeal? Am I reaching, guys? Like I think that's why I kind of like this movie. That love is kind of fucking love is brutal, actually. Life is misery. That's kind of why I love this movie. Like, there's like I life sucks more than it's that my life's more harsh than it presents. Is like why I like the movie, and is that fair to say, guys?
Her love for him again was always very contextualized and conditional. Always conditional, right? What was this main character's name? If you could, what was his name in the film? I forget. Can you
I
refresh my
don't
memory?
remember either.
Sheldon.
Thomas Wood. Sheldon, right?
Yeah. Sheldon's his last name. I forget his first name.
Yeah, she always loved him, but like qua writer, she never ever stepped outside of that context to like see him
Paul.
in any other way.
Paul
Yeah,
Sheldon.
Paul Sheldon. Thank you. She said, I love Paul Sheldon, right? And she did, but she loved like Paul Sheldon qua writer. She never ever stepped out of that. Like she didn't love him in general. And again, this is like the same treatment a lot of women get too, and we can't help but do it. But like, when you're entertaining something that like women have to say, it's ultimately it's grug. It's like it's a little bit barbaric, but it's always like, yeah, but like I'm listening to you because of your tits, or I'm ultimately, even if it's not like in the foreground of your thought, it's omnipresent. Like I just kind of want to fuck your body. I don't care that much. Like, and that's how she's seen him, right? Like, I just kind of want you to like produce misery here. I don't really care about you. And that's kind of fucked up. I've never been in that situation, but I can imagine it would be like pretty frustrating, I'll just say.
Yeah, guys, this movie's not my favorite, but it sticks with me. I've watched it over the years, and I never get bored by it. And the some of the themes and how it's presented, with women, and you know, with just how it's just like nobody's really enjoying their life. Even the fucking hotshot writers like unhappy or doesn't like his situation, and the sheriff's always you know dealing with his wife, and Kathy Bates in the movie. Annie Wilkes is alone, and um what's the word? She's in her own little world, and afraid of stepping outside, kind of type thing situation where I don't know, like the movie never gets boring for me, guys. It's it's a different presentation when it comes to movies. Like that's kind of why I go back to the older movies. It's like, oh, like they don't glamorize everything that you would think, or it's presenting things differently. And this to me is a unique movie. It's not great, it's not perfect, but it's definitely different from your average kind of Stephen King kind of novel movie or whatever, but also it's a different type of horror or scary movie, and it's more raw and real to me. It's actually better, and that's why I kind of hold the movie more of in a higher regard, like over or versus some of these other movies, these horror movies. This to me is scarier, and it's more real.
A lot of I would like to see the budget for this film because it could have been done pretty much, once you hired the actors. There's not a whole lot that goes into this. Yeah, it was creative for sure. I heard some people, they wrote online that the book was more grim actually than the film. Um, no, I did quite like it though. I don't think that was a bad
Yeah,
selection.
I think in the film they held back. to like make it more normie
That
consumable.
seems to be the consensus that, yeah, the book was a lot more grim and gritty, and that in the film they left out a lot of the more the darker stuff. But yeah, it's movies from around this time era, this 80s and 90s, very good. I think that's probably my favorite time
Did the
period in film.
line, "I'm your number one fan," like, did that have anything, um like, hearing that and then, like, by the end of the movie, that kinda fits for me, like, where when you hear something that sounds nice, but it's actually awful, where when someone says something, you think that's what the person wants to hear, and it's actually the opposite. Do you get what I'm saying, Western Decline? Like, that's the last thing Paul Sheldon wanted to hear towards the end of the movie about being like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of yours," and, like, that's almost like, it's it's not received well from, people who, create or produce or, you know, put out something like that.
Well, I think that this kind of problem happens like more now than it ever has in the past. People are exposed to so many takes, so many opinions and everything online, on social media and everything else, reading comments on videos, reviews, that there's so many things, like you can say something totally innocuous, and just because somebody else was exposed to somebody they didn't like saying the same thing, they're going to conclude that, like, yeah, they also don't think highly of you either. He's been like trauma based, like mind controlled to that term, essentially. I'm your biggest fan. Like he won't he there's no more book signings, no autographs for him for the rest of his life after that experience.
And they wanted him to write about. Do you think it had any significance that they wanted him to write the story of it at the end? And he was still considering doing it, was he not? So it's like he's branching into this whole different, nonfiction genre, and he's almost going to try to make profits, commodify what had happened to him. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I was in that situation. Personally, I probably would have tried to out crazy her. Like he should have almost tried to push some kind of sexual thing with her and seen gauged, how she responded to that. It almost might have driven her away from him, I think. Forcing her to see him like not as the author, but just as like himself, Paul, the man. I almost think it might have like made her turned off and put off, which would have possibly worked to his advantage.
How do you guys feel about women who aren't attractive gaining accolades and being successful in Hollywood? Kathy Bates is kind of an interesting figure. I like Kathy Bates. She's not perfect, and all actors are shitty and, do what they're told or whatever the fuck. But I've watched her over the years in different films, and I always kind of have a certain fondness for women who aren't like a 10 or a smoke show having success in Hollywood. Like, I guess you talked about it. I think Dismal, you maybe mentioned it with the No Country for Old Men. These certain filmmakers who interject or have actors in their films that look and a kind of they're normal. They appeal to normal people. They're not the best looking, or they're not the hottest thing since forever. They're the women without the looks having a career in Hollywood. How do you feel about like a Kathy Bates type figure? Women having, like I said, women having success in Hollywood without using sex appeal. Is there anything to say to that?
I like it if they're actually talented. I can appreciate it and I respect them a lot more because they did it without like sucking wieners to get where they are.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I hate it if they're being placed there for some kind of like a body positivity reason and have no talent. Because if I have to choose between like two equally untalented women, I'd prefer the one that's nice to look at.
Yeah, I'd co-sign on that take for sure.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's kind of the fucking issue here, guys. Like my fucking A, Western Decline, you really just you always back me in a corner, and man, it's like, damn it. But like she's not hot, but she like makes this movie, and women who have, you know, they can it's just like they're that's sex appeal is their only appeal. Like we've heard it over and over again. Like that's all women are for, right? Like being good looking and getting fucked or whatever, and just sit in the corner and do what you're told. And like I'm not trying to be a feminist or a woman lover or whatever, but like I really do. That's like my appeal with a movie. She's not a sexy woman, and she gets her head caved in, and her face stuffed with ash. Like I don't want to sound like a woman hater, but like that's part of my appeal with this movie. It's like, man, some fat woman just gets it, gets it in the
But
face. And
but she was actually like more robust than the Boomer main character. He had to smack her head so many times to actually shut her off for good. Meanwhile, he took one little bonk in his tumble, and
did
he
you
was
guys
like,
did you guys notice
boomers are
that?
boomers are so frail. Yeah,
Guys,
no,
guys,
I noticed that too.
guys, I don't know what's going on. I haven't read too much about the movie, but in the end, he uses the pig statue or the misery, the pig, the pork, the statue, the paperweight, whatever the fuck it is, slams her head against it. It's weird where is the symbolism with the pig being named Misery. And I don't know if you guys you only maybe watched the movie. I guess you guys said you watched it one time. You've only watched the movie
One watch through is very insufficient for this
yeah.
film. Very insufficient.
And he kills her with the fucking statue of a fucking pig named Misery.
I just before we move off the last point that you brought up about the look of these women, it's again, and I'm going to keep bringing this up. It's been a recurrent talking point on these streams is people like knowing their duty, being in their role. How you say you can't just switch, what you are, like a blank slate. You look at porn, for example, right? Like, Riley Reid, someone brought her up before. She's not particularly attractive. Like, she's not the most attractive woman that they could go out and find for sure. I could go to the university gym here any given time and find 3 dozen women that are a lot more attractive, even that are more attractive than actresses in Hollywood. Like, a lot of them are just some void on a university campus are way more attractive than like even some of the starlets in Hollywood and stuff, right? But it's about playing a certain role, I think, for things like porn stars are not the most attractive, yet Riley Reid is, I guess, the most popular porn star or one of them, right? Um, Tommy Lee Jones, for example, we keep bringing up No Country. Like, he's like an ugly fuck, right? But that's the role. Like, he's like the old man that's tired of he can't make sense. He can't make heads or tails of the new generation. And like, you need sometimes you can kind of crack slip based on how you look, but not on a like purely, ugly, sexy scale. It's like you are the best for how you fit that role, that caricature. So it is still based on how you look, but not in the way that it's like reducible to your beauty or your ugliness.
Well,
Like,
I don't want to beat a dead horse or keep harping on this, but And Vercingetorix in the chat mentioned the supernatural. Like, this isn't like this hokey, weird kind of, magical movie. It's not like sex appeal. It's not tits and ass. It's not gore. But at some level, it's kind of, you know, it surpasses a lot of these movies with a lot of the gore and the tits and ass. And I think that's my appeal for the movie. It's just presenting human, psychology and human kind of, how, people in life experience or human experience, trials, people, going through things, um, living in, different situations, and, people, with status, or losing their job, or having fame, or whatever it is. Like, this movie it's a little more real and honest, I think, than most horror and scary movies, and that's kind of why I like it. Movies like this, or, Silence of the Lambs, like some of these other kind of, psychological thriller type movies, like they're just they're scarier. They're more frightening than the gory movies.
Like House of a Thousand Corpses, they get captured or whatever by these like psychopaths, but it's not. It's almost like overly played up. I can't relate to it. It's just like cinematography scary. It's not relatable scary.
And another thing too is not having a big budget, or, you know doing a lot of the scenes on a movie set in a small room, like making the most from, how do I say it, making, doing a lot with what you got. They didn't have a lot to work with, from what I could tell. What's being presented, it's not about like special effects or big production. It's just, you know um talent and good writing, and, kind of, boiled down to something, a little more simple, but complex at the same time.
When you're when you look at the difference between fiction writers, right? Whether they're like literary writers or they're like pop fiction writers, right? Stephen King is the latter. He's like the paradigmatic pop fiction writer, meaning that it's not based on this like fleshing out the introspection of the characters and like developing them like a Dostoevsky book or something where there's maybe not a lot going on in the environment in the setting, but it's about the characters like inner monologues and stuff. Whereas Stephen King, it's a Goislop kind of, right? It's for people that just want like a dopamine, and it's, there's things happening in these books. It's a
You
pop
say
culture. It's very
Goislop,
outward.
you say Goislop, you say mass production or mass consumption, and everybody's seen the movie, and it's just for everybody to see and watch. And that's kind of why I like the movie, guys. Like, and I'm not trying to obsess. It's not a perfect movie, but, it's a different kind of view, and seeing, I don't know, I like, it's not, it's the title's Misery, and it's more true to reality, and there isn't sex to, get butts in the seats. It's scary in a different way, and that's why I appreciate the film, guys. Like, I'm glad you guys wanted to, do the review, and I'm glad you guys both watched it at least once. And this movie kind of stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. And I think it's a classic, and I think that incels would like it, and dissident types, because it's presenting women kind of maybe unfavorably. Western McLean, is that wrong, or?
Well, it's presenting women unfavorably, and it's presenting being desired by women potentially unfavorably too. Like, it's not necessarily all it's cracked up to be sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point. That even if women like you, is that enough?
What sort of women like you, and how are they gonna act when they do?
There is, and I've been talking about this more in like kind of things that I've released lately, where there is a type of woman who is crazy like this, and she'll be very mean, but it's coming from a genuinely caring, loving place, but it's just manifest as like cruel fucking nastiness, right? And again, like maybe for some people they want that if they're just like very feeble type men, if they're very just beta passive type guys, they might want a chick like this who's like very bossy, but she's got it covered type deal. But if you're a man that doesn't, you have like authority problems and stuff, you're disagreeable, then you're not going to get on with somebody like her, right? Like, let's say, I mean, her, like, let's say she wasn't a murderer or whatever. She just had this like annoying, bossy way about her. I know a lot of guys. I mean, to an extent, I'm in a relationship like that. I know a lot of people that are, where it's just like, I mean, they're controlling your whole life, and it fucking sucks. But at the same time, it does come from like a place of genuine care, and it could be productive to you. Like, it could be a catalyst for you to achieve things in life that you wouldn't otherwise have. And so there's like all these trade-offs to dealing with like psychotic women like this.
They're useful situationally too. Like, the one thing that immediately comes to mind with this sort of woman is like I want to sick her on like customer service representatives. Like, anytime I got to deal with like you know what I mean, like a call center or like customer service, I want to have like her doing it. You know what I mean? Like, she'll make things
Yeah.
happen. She's got like the woman advantage, and she's like bulldozer enough to like get it done.
And a lot, I don't like being that guy, right? Like, you say you're trying to find a bathroom and the place doesn't want to let you use it or something. Like things like that, of course, they would maybe just like handing over the reins to somebody like that could benefit a lot of guys that are a lot more timid and meek and stuff. They get in relationships with these hyper controllers that will like literally scream at you because you're like eating something unhealthy, but then they're like, yeah, I want you to know that like I just care about you. And
Guys, guys,
it's what it
I,
is,
I had you watch the movie, right? Like, did you guys enjoy it? Like, is this better than like a Star Wars movie? Is this kind of way it's stylized, and how this kind of way of doing a movie, does it bore you? Is it better than like the Star Wars type movies? What do you guys think about like that kind of angle? Like,
Personally, even when I was a kid, I hated like fast paced dopamine. I hated cinematography and stuff. So again, this is right up my alley pace wise. I always hated like Power Rangers type stuff. Even as a very young child, it was too, I don't know, it just seemed like kind of low tier. So no, I like this. I like movies like The Godfather where it's very slow. People are just kind of monologuing, and yeah, I would always be happy to have you recommend films that are kind of paced this way, shot this way.
well,
Honestly, I found it boring, but I found it also educational. It's the kind of thing where like I'm glad to have watched it because now I've got like all these kind of like behavioral mannerisms to like add to my ick list. And I'd equate it to kind of if you've ever had to watch like an occupational hazard like safety video at the start of a new job, like, this is how you use your PPE properly and all this other shit. Like, that's kind of what I'd liken it to.
It's
Yes,
so good. Western Decline, that's so good. Like it's literally like it's like a bad movie, but it works. And it's like well, like, oh my God. When you say like the start of a job and you're watching some like, video, and like there's rules and standards and all this stuff. And it makes sense for me, man, like what you're saying. I guys, like this fucking, like, I can't, guys, I can't do, like, being extreme is like fine. Like we've all wanted to see like crazy shit like on the internet, or like a wild, outcome in a movie or whatever. But it's with Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes in this movie. And I don't want to like be too much of a, everyone's like accusing me like I think she's the best ever, but with the way this movie is presented and how she uses her language, and there's not all the blood and guts, there's not all the it's not we don't need to be like ghoul, well, it is ghoulish almost, but the language she uses, and there's not this obsession with blood and guts and all that's all the stuff we've seen from like other horror movies. Like there's something uniquely fun like about, or not fun, fun's maybe the wrong word, but like it works with the language. And she's like offended by swear words, but then like the words she uses are almost more like skin crawling. Like it has an effect that, like, she's like this weird, almost autistic like child, or um sheltered person, like monitoring her. She's mad about swear words, but then like the words in the things she says in the movie are almost, it's scarier, or has more of a I get like a more of a visceral reaction to when she says, some of the words she says in the movie versus like, the curse words that you would hear in any other movie.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think I'm almost like impervious to boredom. I never, again, even as a kid, I never felt like I got bored watching things. I don't like a lot of things. I don't. This movie was memorable for me, but it's not going to top my list. But I think it deserves to be a classic. It's somebody said that it was a $20 million budget. I would be curious how that was spent, because
50 takes
90%.
of the Mustang rolling down the hill.
Yeah, like I would be very curious. $20 million in 1990. I don't know, for this movie. It was filmed in a little room for the most part. So
They probably just rented out like some little town to film this in, would be my guess, and that's where most of the money went.
yeah, something like that, because it was definitely not put into the effects or anything like directly relating to the film itself.
In fact, after the accident where he like rolled the Mustang, the like makeup of the blood on his face was like some poor quality, honestly. Like it looked like ketchup sprayed on his face almost.
Yeah,
It was jarring, even the difference between the blood on his face in that scene where he's laying in the crashed car compared to how much better it was done when he woke up laying in her bed and it had all like bruised.
yeah.
Guys, like the whole "I'm your number one fan," it just kind of fucking, it just sticks out with me when I hear that. Like, if someone is like supportive and like says they're like loyal to you, or they want to help you, and this movie kind of reaffirms that that's not maybe the case, and that friendship and people that you think are your buddy aren't really maybe your buddy. Like, and maybe that's why I like this movie, with the psychology and like all the like kind of manipulation. Like, Annie Wilkes, this, like, she's not just some stupid person. Like, she's observant, she's manipulative, she's got skills, but she has no power or influence. And when
Well,
she gets a hold of her, her favorite writer, maybe she can like do that, and has a little bit of that. But I don't
well,
know.
I'll say this, right, from personal experience, and I'm not even somebody I'm nobody to even like have fans or whatever. But the people who did say they were most invested from very early on, and kind of what I was trying to do, the stuff I put out, they ended up to be like a bunch of Jews who were just trying to puppet string me, basically. So when people are big fans of you and they're like very, devotees, they're very invested in everything you say, every detail of everything you put out. Like a lot of times, yeah, they are just mischievous. A lot of times they don't like you. They like what they can do with you and things like that. So even on a very, very, very small scale, I've had this. The Jews latched their claws into my YouTube channel and were like, I'm your, I
Guys,
fucking Collective Dismal, I'm gonna make like, they didn't give a shit.
I don't know.
Fans are
I
fucking
said it
retarded.
I said it earlier, guys, in the stream about like the whole like female actresses having success in Hollywood or whatever. And I've seen Kathy Bates in a number of films over the years, and I like her because everything she's in, I see more of like a realistic viewpoint of what women really are, how they are, and if anybody's watched some of Kathy Bates, she's in a lot of movies, and they're going to paint women in a different way, and I think that's why like I have an affinity or some kind of attraction to Kathy Bates, because in her movies, women aren't like this, you know, perfect creature who's beautiful and gonna just, do nothing wrong. Like that's actually the opposite with Kathy Bates, and that's why I like her. Like all her movies, she's just this like woman that like she presents women in a different way, and that's why I just never I never get, I don't know, I'm not like the biggest fan, or she's not like my favorite actress, but she's like a different, she's just different than most women in Hollywood, and that's why I think she's noteworthy. Most people don't care, probably don't want to watch a Kathy Bates movie because they want to see tits and ass, so, and that's fine.
Can you guys hear me? I dropped for a moment.
Yeah, you're fine, you're fine.
So what just to shift gears, do you have any in mind for future film reviews? Or
Before you do that, why don't you guys just give me a summation, just your takeaway, oh, this, Thomas told me to watch Misery, and now here's what I think. Like, go ahead and just, if it's short, long, just a brief summation of what you guys thought about our little chat tonight and watching the movie. And you never seen it before, so you press the play button and you didn't know what you were gonna get. What did you get?
An education.
yeah, again, it's a whole thing about knowing your role, playing it, um, and just being genuine and committed to what you are. And
Well, we
that's
did
it.
talk about Misery already. Now I want to do Dolores Claiborne. That's another Kathy Bates film. Dolores Claiborne. We're not going to do it. It's going to be like next year. So don't get, don't hold your breath. I do want to discuss the, more Kathy Bates, and most people probably hate her and she's ugly and gross, but there's a bunch of movies I want to talk about with Kathy Bates in it, but we're going to wait. It's going to be a long time from now. And, Dismal, I think you asked the question about, kind of what's next or whatever. And I think it's, maybe we'll let Western Decline decide. And if he's got a movie he wants to talk about, because I want to let you, Western Decline, I want you to like, be the next pick or whatever. And, I'm sure you got,
I have to do some thinking. I don't have a whole lot on the to-do list.
yeah, I've got 100 movies to do, and I've got, a comment section that's always blowing up my, I'm always getting, people wanting me to talk about this and that and the other thing. So,
The one
well,
thing that the fact that I never heard of this film before makes me wonder what other kind of gems that I should know but don't.
eh,
Like I really do feel like I should have known this movie, or I should have known of it. and it
There's
slipped below my radar. I wonder what else is slipping.
we all like miss stuff because like you can't watch it all. You can't like really keep track of it all. Even if you're like a film buff, you like things slip through the cracks. So I'm not surprised maybe you guys didn't see this one. And there's movies I never saw that people keep referring and wanting me to see. And I like the movie Misery is, people wonder about what movies is Thomas going to pick next and why does he talk about this movie or not that movie. Misery was a movie I watched as a young person, and I watched it as a like middle, as I got a little
What
older.
did you think about what did you think about this when you seen it as a child? Like, I can't really imagine how I would have understood this if I was young.
I can't even explain that to you. Dismal, like I don't know, like I just remember it had an impact. And Stephen King, like, oh yeah, I'm not this big reader. I didn't want. By the way, I'm never going to read a Stephen King novel, but the movies are
Stephen
all right.
King novels are like 1,100 pages.
Well, I just can't. I just
They're
can't
fucking
do this.
ridiculous.
I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Like the whole like establishment hack, like guy that I'm supposed to like read, everybody else read. Like I'm just not gonna do that.
There's one Stephen King book that I forget what it's called. It's supposed to be like his number one best book ever. So maybe somebody it's the something. It slips my mind at the moment.
People in the chat like think I'm like the biggest Kathy Bates fan, and I've already said it on the stream. And it's not that I'm a fan; it's that I appreciate actresses that aren't using their like sex
Maybe
appeal and tits
um,
and ass and shaking their butt on screen and
The
all the
Stand.
hot young all the hot young women that why don't you goon to this girl or how do you not know about that girl? Like no, women in movies, being older or not using sex to win me over kind of is, I don't know, unique, I guess. I don't.
So Torix said The Stand, right? Thank you for that. The Stand is it's supposed to be Stephen King's best book that he's ever written, and it refuses film adaptation. Like they say, it's almost like Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, which is like his best. No, that's the guy who wrote The Road, No Country. He wrote a book called Blood Meridian, and I've read that, and it's extremely good. But it can't be adapted to film just by kind of the nature of it. And they say The Stand by Stephen King is like this. It just the way that it's written, it would be virtually impossible to adapt it to film. And that would be the only book by him I would ever consider. I mean, my reading list is like would take me 200 years to get through, but if I was ever going to read one of his books, it would probably be that one just because you can't see it in a film, and it is purported to be like far and away his best book he's ever written.
I
So
don't know what the fuck's wrong with me, you guys. The movie's called Misery. And like she loves Paul Sheldon. She's the number one fan. And like the people that you think like you, they're gonna really hurt you. They're not really helping your life. Like I just think this movie's more true than most horror movies and scary movies. And maybe this is not a scary movie or a horror movie, but I think it's definitely both and more so than most of that genre. Like you watch like a fucking slasher and it's like put me to sleep. Misery, it grabs my attention more so than others. But you
I
know,
don't like slashers.
Western Decline, like I get it. It's kind of, you could kind of like grasp the movie midway. It's not like special or great or amazing, but it's actually like, guys, this movie's not gonna be, movies like this aren't gonna be made. Like you're not gonna watch a movie like this in like 2025, 2027. Like you're gonna see how evil men are, and like you're gonna see some gay shit. You're not gonna see a movie like Misery ever again. I think it's unique and special in that way. You watch some of the 80s or the 90s or some of these more historical
They're
movies.
pre-woke, yeah. Even though society was already kind of like even though they had already undergone like the long march through the institutions and this kind of like neo-Marxist capture of cinema, but like it was pre-woke. So you still had these movies where like yeah, they did delve into female nature and things like that, right? The nature of nons and stuff in a more realistic way. It was that space in between, like, yeah, we were going there, but it wasn't woke. This film couldn't be made today.
And now, by the way, I don't have a favorite Stephen King movie or um I kind of just like him like a lot of the stuff that's been put out with the Stephen King kind of. He's not really frankly, he doesn't have anything to do with any of these movies. That's what bothers me most about the Stephen King bit. He doesn't have to fuck all. In fact, he's fucking pissed about all these movies.
Yeah, he hates them
He
all. Yeah,
fucking hates them all, but he's a fucking fat rich fuck who whines about not being. Oh, he quit Twitter and he's like a leftist
and
fucking.
anything and any of the adaptations he does get his hands on are just fucking shite. They're always
I'm
fucking
sorry,
shite.
like I get it, slasher movies or action movies or widely consumed movies or the Rock. You watch like a movie like Jumanji or whatever. Like I get it though. A lot of people watch that stuff and they watch all the Stephen King stuff. Blah 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 blah. But if it's got a Stephen King kind of if he has anything to do with a movie, generally I don't really like get mad about watching when I watch it. I don't get like I'm usually like cool with it. Like the Longoliers, the Stand, the Shining, all this shit. Like most of them are fine. Like I don't they're not perfect. They kind of remind me of that other fuck who did They Live. What's his name? The
John Carpenter.
Carpenter. He kind of reminds me of Carpenter a little bit. Where like it's not the best budget, not the best actors, not the best, production, but they're like kind of watchable and not boring, but not too elaborate or complex. Is that right, Dismal?
Yeah, they're made for maybe like a slightly above average intellect. They're not like there is a very big, in my opinion, there's a very big intellectual gap between like the kind of person that could properly do like a justice in analysis of like No Country, for example, and this film. Like I think that yeah, maybe this would be like somebody slightly above average intelligence could kind of enjoy this film, break it down, analyze it, exhaust the themes in it, and do a good job. Whereas there are films that kind of take like they're deeper, I would say, in the themes that they deal with. They would require they wouldn't be enjoyable to like a midwit.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, guys, did you guys want to do another movie review, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
fuck you.
All right,
Line
we're
one
gonna
up.
we're gonna like figure it out. Like, guys, like we don't know what the next review is gonna be, and it'll be in like 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, and me and Dismal and Western Decline, we're gonna pick a movie, and if you wanna, maybe suggest something, go ahead and put it in the comment section. Yeah, before we leave, Dismal and Decline. Dismal, you can go first. Do you guys want to like plug anything? Do you want to like tell us where what you're up to in the next few weeks?
Well, apparently you didn't know that I have a YouTube channel since my last one got banned. So I'm gonna plug this to you because I don't give a fuck if like other people listen to me, but I want like it's a travesty that you didn't even know I was doing anything to me. So yeah, you Thomas, go subscribe to me, Collective Dismal. That's my plug. That's it.
yeah, I'm gonna find your new channel. I can't
Yeah,
believe
follow
it.
me. Yeah,
Uh,
I've been at it
Western
for a few
Western
months.
Decline, what's going on? People were saying you deleted your channel. Are you done doing YouTube? What do you got?
No, I didn't delete anything. Somebody commented and said YouTube's hiding my channel, and I'd believe it because I've commented on a couple things in the last couple days, and everything I write gets deleted regardless of whether it is like breaking any
Culture.
rules or not. So
I had for the first time something really weird on YouTube. I had it wasn't a strike against my channel. It wasn't like any kind of suspension, but I was suspended from writing comments on anything except my own videos for like a few days. I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like I couldn't even go to just like a mainstream, like a normie channel and write like a nice comment. It just said you can't comment at this time because like of an abusive comment you left on something.
It just fucking bugs me. Because, like, you guys can't maintain YouTube channels or Twitter accounts, but then, like, Trump was the president and the right's winning and all the, like, right wingers on YouTube are celebrating. And it's like, but wait a minute. It's all bullshit. And there's so much censorship going on. And so many people, so many great, content creators are actually being, banned and silenced. And, oh, you're just a black pillar, Thomas. Shut the fuck up. Go subscribe to like Jack Posobiec and watch his
They
stuff.
don't
Right. Like, fuck off. Like, I fucking hate it all. Like, everybody's like saying like everything's fine. We figured it out. We straightened everything out. There isn't any more censorship. And meanwhile, it's literally the opposite. Like, it's
they
literally
don't they don't again, and I've made this point, they don't like the kind of things that you can join. It's not even the things that you're talking about on like the woman question. It's the fact that you can join these different things that are, they want them to be like distinct communities. They don't want you to overlap this. And it's almost like you found a certain recipe, a certain concoction that's like a big no-no. You can't be kind of like, I don't know. It's just that's sort of like dashboardy and Overton window where it's like you kind of, talking about everything at once, and they don't like that.
it's
Those people
it's
are
like
still getting
it's like the flag materials list. You're allowed to buy fertilizer if you're like a farmer, but like
yeah, that's
don't
what I
don't
mean.
get
Yeah.
caught buying fertilizer and a van and ignition fuses at the same
Ex-
time.
exactly. That's a really good analogy. That's exact,
right.
and I think that you guys kind of like you touched the nerve, and it's no surprise that like you're still getting canceled, even though we're in like the orange era, round two, fucking Donald Trump, and
God, it's
it's
so cringe. It's so fucking cringe.
yeah.
All right, before we end the stream, I'm just gonna say a couple words and then we'll shut it down. Guys, this movie's not great. It's not perfect. It's not awesome. I just watched it a few times or a handful of times over the years. I really enjoyed this movie. I like dialogue. I don't care about graphics or gore or blood and guts. And this movie, it's not, I don't know, it has a certain effect on me. Like, this movie isn't the average movie, and you get to see like kind of more, I don't know, maybe I'm like off the mark, but the the more kind of nature between men and women and how men aren't this, patriarchal dominant, like women have power, women have, are manipulative. There's some themes, there's some elements of the film that I think aren't your average kind of, it's not your average movie. It's kind of it shines a light on kind of a different viewpoint about women and um
Male naivety, male
yeah,
naivety.
male naivety. Great point, Dismal. And it's just it's this movie, it's kind of like stuck in my mind or my brain. Like, Misery, like I can never forget Misery. And to see some woman kind of get it in the end, all the woman haters out there, they want to see women abused and tortured and raped and killed. And well, go watch Misery. You'll get to see a woman get beat the hell out and get got and eventually. But the guy kind of gonna, the guy goes through kind of a lot. So before that happens. Anyway, go watch Misery. I like it. And Stephen King's like a faggot and an establishment hack, and probably his books probably suck, and I'm not going to read them. And don't subscribe or follow his Twitter. And yeah, Stephen King movies are okay, but fuck Stephen King.